Okay. I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to the CineFiles, the show that allows you to eavesdrop on the conversations of fellow film fanatics. Today I'm joined by
Michael Volz
and Eric Cohen. Today we're going to be discussing the Dirty Harry series, which was
a subject near and dear to you. That a message to our fans. Edwin has been pushing this for a long time, and finally,
well, not
we are
just
discussing
me.
it.
Not just me. I mean, we got a lot of requests, believe it or not, on the Facebook page. Speaking of Facebook, we hope that you'll take the time to join us on the Facebook page. It's a great place.
Who else recommended this besides yourself?
Oh no, there's a few people on there.
I want names,
guys. You know who you are. I expect you, if you watch this,
what amuses me about this back and forth, now that you have him saying that a lot of people recommended this series on Facebook page, it may be true. But how would he know if it wasn't true or not? He's never on the Facebook page.
Yeah, get your freaking ass over there, you hypocritical. You know what? You know what? You should change your name to Newt Gingrich. You're
Gingrich meet Romney.
Yeah,
Romney meet Gingrich.
Don't compare me to him. But you're a hypocrite, just like Gingrich and Romney.
I guess that makes me John
Let's
King.
go on.
Okay.
How dare you bring up my hypocrisy? With an important debate like Dirty Harry, and you bring my hypocrisy
Hey, you're the guy who left his wife when she was dying of cancer.
Well,
we are going into a very dark place right now.
I guess it all starts back in 1971 when the illustrious Don Siegel decided to make his first very famous vigilante picture starring Clint Eastwood.
Don Siegel, I think, is a very underrated director. He's made a lot of great films. He started out as an editor and making titles, and he worked on a lot of...
I wouldn't say great films, but I'd say for what he did, he had talent.
He was an expert craftsman.
I don't think he was underrated. I think he's recognized as a pretty solid director for the time.
He's not John Ford, but anybody that knows half their thing on film can recognize the talent of Don Siegel.
Don Siegel and Clint Eastwood had a long collaborative relationship over the years. In fact, Don Siegel was Clint Eastwood's mentor and helped him become a director himself. Mm-hmm. And this is one of their team-ups. And this is the film that really made Clint Eastwood the star that he is today.
Now, am I not mistaken? Wasn't John Wayne originally intended for the Dirty Harry
Well, there was
part?
a couple people.
Or is that just a myth?
No, there's a couple people who were up for the role. In fact, one of them was Frank Sinatra, they said.
I heard that too.
I just cannot imagine Frank Sinatra, saying, did I fire 5 shots or 6?
Well, see, what you said about Clint Eastwood, this being his breakthrough role into A-list territory,
it made him an icon.
Compared to what he did with The Man with No Name, mm-hmm. and his work with Sergio Leone, is because you had the classic chiseled features, 6'4", handsome guy, he could do action, but Dirty Harry gave him his catchphrases.
The genesis of Dirty Harry is that the 60s, there was a lot of unrest, political turmoil, there was protests in the streets, and there was also a lot of crime. And a lot of people felt powerless. So Clint Eastwood's character, Dirty Harry, Harry Callahan, came in and was a vigilante. And he took out the scum, and that's why a lot of people related to this film very much. And it started off a lot of these revenge-type, vigilante-type films. In fact, another one would be Death Wish.
Well, he wasn't really, he was a cop.
He was a cop, but he was more a vigilante.
Used the badge to do whatever he wanted to do.
Now, Dirty Harry is a great cop movie. I think if you have to mention police movies, I think Dirty Harry would definitely be in the top 10. Some people were very off-put by the extreme right-wing angle of the movie. I don't really think it's white.
Like what, for instance?
Well, it's just how he takes the law into his own hands, and he, is taking out.
But that's not right wing. That's more just like vigilante justice. I don't know how right wing that is.
Well, I mean, in fact, there was lots when the movie came out. There was a lot of controversy about it.
Well, there is a fascistic element to the character of Harry Callahan, but I think if we're talking about the movie Dirty Harry and not the character as a character that was a part of a mini franchise, I think that Dirty Harry in the first film, it's treated a lot more complex than in the later films. He's the hero, he's the main protagonist of the film. And yet he has moments where you cheer him on for what he's doing, but he's not exactly that sympathetic.
No.
And it's the filmmaker's intent that you shouldn't be that sympathetic. In fact, he does cross a line, which is questionable. Which that line just doesn't exist in the later films.
And also, I like it too is that you can see he might have some severe mental issues. We know his wife leaving him, and just the stress of his job.
Dirty Harry is a much more complex film than the last three. Like Eric was saying, What I felt the problem with the Dirty Harry films as they go on is, except for number 2, because I think Magnum Force is the best one. But anyway,
really, what's your problem with Dirty Harry?
Well, I don't think it's my problem per se. I think there's some stuff in there that's very clunky, and it usually centers around the villain Andrew Robinson.
I think he's terrific.
Of Hellraiser fame.
I think he's good. I think it's a little hammy. I think it's a little one-dimensional. I see what they were doing, though, and this is the point.
But don't you think that one minute Andrew Robinson is an extremely smart villain and very canny to use the rules of society for his own benefit, and then other things he does is completely stupid, like kidnapping the bus?
Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think that's. I think he completely lost his mind at that point. That's not thinking it was rational.
Well, that's how I saw it too. But the point I was going to make is what makes Dirty Harry unique in this series is that they seem to want you to think that Dirty Harry might be self-righteous, and he might have issues. He's also not very bright. And that's what I thought was interesting about this, and that the villain, the Andrew Sullivan character.
Andrew Robinson.
I'm sorry, Andrew Sullivan.
That's a Republican, yeah. Well, yeah.
The right-wing Republican.
Hey,
sorry.
Go ahead, Nick.
We just had a big political discussion before the taping, folks. But I was going to say that Andrew Robinson's character knows how to play Harry because of that. And he even draws Harry in, lets him do his vigilante shit on him. He's like, I got you. What you did was legally bullshit. So he plays this game with the Harry Callahan character. Well, I do think there are moments in there where it gets I think his whole insane, crazy guy.
It is way over the top.
It gets a little wearing.
I don't think it's so much because he's just because the character. I think he's able to do it because he is so.
I have rights.
No, but
that's
but
ridiculous.
No, I think he's very good because the character is just so. Awesome. That's actually very good. The character.
It was awful.
The character is so insane. And by the way, we should mention too that. That's another thing I don't want to say. The character of Scorpio, who Andrew Robinson plays, is based on the real-life Zodiac killer. Which, in fact, if you look at the movie Zodiac, they even talk about the making of Dirty Harry. And they said the guy who actually tracked the Zodiac killer, that's who they based Dirty Harry on. I can't remember the part that Mark Ruffalo plays in that movie. Now, what works for me about Dirty Harry is that it's very taunt, it's very serious, it's very dark.
No, taunt.
Taunt, I'm sorry. It's very taunt, it's very dark, it's very serious, and that's what works for me. And Clint Eastwood.
Taunt. Tight.
Yeah, he said taunt.
You're still taunting.
That's what I meant. Please cut that out. As I was saying, but no, the reason why this works for me is we're talking about, how you
like the pacing.
I like the pacing. I like the feel. I think it's very well edited by Don Siegel for maximum suspense.
I like the pulpiness. The violence is awesome, and there's a lot of nudity.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Don Siegel did not do the sequel. It was Ted Post, who was a television director and also a feature film director, who directed one of my favorite films, Beneath Planet of the Apes. Stepped up and directed the film, and there was a script by
Michael Cimino and my personal favorite, John Milius.
And then who also contributed to the script was Stephen Bochco. Magnum Force came out a little shortly afterwards, and it's a film that's a lot longer. It's bigger in scope, and one thing that it tries to do is address the vigilante justice that the first one commented on, because I believe they were doing this as a response to all the critics.
This was the most intelligent of the 5 films, I think.
This one, I do like the idea of there being a vigilante gang out there.
They're Dirty Harry, but on steroids. That's what they are.
And that's what they were trying to show, is that, Callahan is somewhat on the level. These people are over and, going out and, this is vigilante justice.
Well, yeah,
100%.
if he's right-wing, then these cops are the ultra-fish.
He's like a moderate Republican to their far right.
Yeah. Now, this film, my problem with it is it's a little overlong. It's a good story. I just think it's too padded and it's not fleshed out enough. There's some very good moments.
I don't know about that.
The music score by.
Actually, I would make that criticism about the first Dirty Harry.
The first Dirty Harry film.
Magnum Force, I think, is pretty tight.
Magnum Force is over 2 hours. It's the longest in the series.
I was going to say Dirty Harry felt padded.
There is not a wasted scene in that movie. I agree with Mike. I actually like Magnum Force better.
Really?
Part of it is because I think it's a better film than Dirty. I think it's a lot more entertaining. I think Dirty Harry is a better directed film. I'll give you that.
Yes, it's a better shot film.
It's a better shot film, but I think Magnum Force is a tighter altogether story.
It's a great plot, great story.
That's my
It utilizes Harry Callahan brilliantly because it's basically pointing the mirror at Callahan and saying, "Oh, you think your solution's better? Tell you what, let's put a bunch of Harry Callahans out on the street, and we'll see how you like it."
And all the Harry Callahan movies, I have the fondest childhood memories of this one, because this used to be on Channel 7. They would show this on Channel 7 during the afternoon, like when I was visiting my grandparents in summer and stuff. And my cousin and I were obsessed with this film.
I love the music score by Schifrin. He did the first one and he did the second one as well. And the second one's even better.
But you're pointing out all this periphery stuff. It's the story that's the meat of the matter.
Well, my problem with the story is I think it's not focused enough. I do like the idea.
It is very focused. But how is it not focused?
It just feels kind of slackish to me, the pacing. And I don't know. There's just something about it. It's over 2 hours. It is over 2 hours. It is the longest.
Yeah, but if you're watching a good film and it's 2 hours,
are you saying
say,
that
God,
film
this
length has something to do with it being sluggish? I mean, a film could be 2 hours and go like that.
It feels like
a film could be like an hour and 15 minutes and be slow.
Harry Callahan has a relationship with his upstairs neighbor, this Japanese woman. It's kind of amusing. Yeah, it's a hippie. It's kind of amusing, but it really doesn't go anywhere, and it feels unnecessary.
But I don't think it's supposed to, because
I think what it just gives you a little bit of a window into Harry Callahan's personal life, that he's willing to open himself up to this. And yet he has this life. It comes back and haunts him because that's why he can't keep his partners.
Well, another thing, too, is it sheds a whole new light on Callahan that we didn't see from the Dirty Harry series, which was not only is Callahan willing to go on a date with one of his best friend's ex-wives, but he's also willing to go full force into the free love movement that he kind of looked down upon in the first film. Especially when the girl kind of hits on him. And I think he has this quote, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. He's like, "Where have you been this whole time, Callahan?"
And it's an interesting film because of that, because maybe I'm reading into it too much, but the catalyst is coming up against these guys who are this vigilante secret arm of the police, of the San Francisco police. Why I've always had a problem with the films that came after it, because if this so affects him in that way, then he would probably have second thoughts about the way he's been approaching things.
Yeah, this is the one where it kind of really turns the myth of Dirty Harry on its ear.
That's another problem I have.
And it's really, really focused on that one scene where he's at the shooting range at the beginning of the film, and the recruits that all just came out of the academy are there surrounding. You've got Robert Urich. You've got David Soul, Mr. Hutch from Starsky
Animal House guy. What's his name?
Tim Matheson.
And you also have
the fourth
Kip
guy,
Niven.
I don't know.
Kip Niven.
Was it Kip Niven?
Kip Niven.
Yeah.
What I have a problem with is that, of course you see the 4 recruits who are the vigilantes. But I didn't believe that the conflict where Callahan is actually questioning his beliefs with these guys, I don't think they did enough with that. Where he's going.
Oh, I don't know how much more you needed.
I don't say they did enough, but it's just they didn't.
Remember when he
it's a whole scene where they're like, "Sir, we thought you could join us," and he goes, "Well, then I think you've misread me."
I didn't like the way that.
Or
it was
when he
explained.
confronts him about killing his friend.
Yeah,
he's like, "What?"
It's not that they didn't do enough
or
with
when
it.
he kills the other when they went to the union boss.
We're differing. We're saying it was done well.
It didn't work for me.
And it has great action set pieces in this.
It does
film.
have good action.
That whole scene at the end is just. That's why, as a kid, I kept wanting to see this film again, just to see that whole scene. It ends up with him driving his car into the motorcycle.
I will
coming
say
right
this
at
though.
him.
I will say this though. I do like it enough where it is my second favorite Dirty Harry film, though.
Only problem.
Let me say this.
No.
Go ahead.
My only problem with Magnum Force is that it kind of goes back a little bit to what I said with Dirty Harry, in the sense that your lead villain, Hal Holbrook, is too much of a mustache twirler, I like to say. Too much of a, I'm going to be a hard-ass dick this whole time. So it's really no surprise to know that he's actually leading the gang of young fascists in the department.
That is a major problem.
I'll be honest with you. Hal Holbrook, at least here, doesn't make the best villain. Maybe because he's such a good guy in a lot of films that here he seems like
I'm going to defend Holbrook a bit because the whole setup was to make you think he didn't approve of Harry Callahan's tactics, and ergo, that's why it was supposed to be a surprise that he was actually behind this secret force arm of the police. And I thought him just playing up the cliche of the pissed off chief of police who's constantly pissed off at his the main protagonist's refusal to stay in line and do his job the way it's supposed to be done.
Okay, the next film was The Enforcer, which came out a few years later. It was, I believe, directed by James Fargo. It's a concept movie with. I guess it's a concept film. It's a concept film. I think so.
What's your definition of a concept film?
Well, it's a gimmick film. They get Harry Callahan is this macho character, and so what better way to shake things up than to give him a female partner?
To be honest with you, I thought she was the best part of the film. I thought Tyne Daly was the best part of the film. The only reason that makes it worth watching. Otherwise, it's a very forgettable movie.
We go back again to the problem that that I mentioned, and I believe Eric mentioned, but now it's even more to the point where you're kind of the progress that Magnum Force made with the character of Callahan, we just completely forgot. And he goes back to, it's like that second film was forgotten, so whatever bad traits or predictable traits that Harry Callahan had in Dirty Harry really get exemplified and magnified.
It shouldn't be a gimmick concept thing. It should stand the reason eventually he get a female partner, and it would have been interesting
to explore.
But the way they play it. Yeah, exactly.
The way it's
not
played,
really explored
though.
the way it could. It's not like he's progressed beyond the Harry Callahan we saw in the last film.
It's craftsmanship, and the problem I have with it is that when he's introduced, it's like, hell no, I'm not having no woman partner. They don't really intelligently handle it. I do like the idea of the movie where he's going. This was back in the mid '70s, of course, with the Sudanese Liberation Army, all these anti-government groups, and so this one,
Weather
Underground, these people, and I think it's a great idea that Callahan is going after these groups, but they don't do anything interesting with it.
Well,
they kidnap the mayor, and they
kidnap
hang
the
on to him
mayor
at Alcatraz.
And the scene on Alcatraz is pretty good, but you don't care by the time you get there because the rest of the movie is so dull.
Well, they do something with Magnum Force, you pointed out that there was concepts in here that weren't fully developed. The Enforcer is the one that truly has concepts not developed. First of all, your villains are kind of a proto-hippie force, like we said, a left-wing terrorist group. But what is pointed out midway through the film is it's not really so much the hippies that are leading this. They have, at the core of this group, a couple murder-crazed Vietnam vets leading it. And these guys are so ruthless and villain.
Right.
They're cartoony.
They had to throw in guys to justify the crazy villainous aspect of it.
That's one of my problems with the film.
It had to be a black and white thing and not a complex
what drives me
thing.
nuts is that, okay, you guys just saw this recently like me, right? You don't even remember who the bad guy is.
Now, at that point, I was getting really fucking sick of his partners being killed off.
It
was just, I knew they wanted to make that sort of a punchline, to every film, but it's getting really tiresome.
I saw in the when they are rolling the credits at the beginning, giving the list of actors involved, and I saw the name John Mitchum, and I thought that his big fat sloppy drunk partner in this was Robert Mitchum's brother, because when the guy talks, he sounds just like Robert Mitchum, and I thought, that must be John Mitchum. But it's not, of course. But I just think it's funny that this guy, and he kind of looked like Robert Mitchum, just fatter, sloppier, and drunker.
I guess this segues into the last two movies, because you mentioned that whole thing about good concept but poor execution kind of thing. Well, with Sudden Impact, you had the same problem. You had this opportunity to explore, okay, what if Harry Callahan winds up having feelings for somebody that could be the person he has to put in jail? That's an interesting concept on the surface, but it's a terrible movie.
All right, well, the next film was Sudden Impact, which came out in 1983. There's a very interesting history behind this one. There was many scripts developed for the movie. One of them was retooled into a movie Fred Williamson called The Big Score. This film was the first film that Clint Eastwood directed, and it gave us the immortal catchphrase, "Go ahead and make my day." Clint Eastwood is actually wearing the glasses that Arnold Schwarzenegger wore in The Terminator, the gargoyle sunglasses. That line played on every single TV spot, and I think that's what made this movie so successful.
No, what made it successcul is when Reagan made the speech to Gorbachev. Yeah. Not Gorbachev, but...
Well, that's why. I'm not saying that's why, but he kept saying, it was on every single ad had that line. And, of course, Reagan, quoted it, and then it became part of, history.
Well, that whole scene is pretty friggin' racist, too. I think that is... And they try and make up for it by having the true villains all be white. But still, the beginning, you couldn't have had more black stereotypes in that if you tried. That whole diner scene is just ridiculous.
This one takes him out of San Francisco and investigating a crime where a woman has been raped and is seeking revenge, played by his ex-squeeze Sandra Locke, who can be good sometimes, but
she was terrible.
She's not very good in this one. The rape scene where she's raped by a lesbian, I guess Clint Eastwood has a thing for lesbians raping women, or trying to.
I don't know what Clint's deal is, but he's got something against lesbians, that's for sure.
Yeah, and this one, it's a very dirty movie. It's kind of sickening. It's just the way it's handled. This one is a lot more serious than the other film in the series, the previous one, The Enforcer, but it's still kind of cartoonish, like you said at the beginning.
It's a mixed tone movie. It doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. On one level, it's like this tongue-in-cheek crime thriller. On the other hand, it tries to be this serious examination of violence on women and the consequences of that. Unfortunately, neither tone meshes, and the film just becomes sleazy.
There is one thing that's unusual about this film compared to the other ones. This one is more of a detective story where Clint Eastwood's, hunting down leads. That's unusual because he didn't do that in the other films. I mean, it's pretty open and shut. This one, he's chasing down leads, trying to find this woman. That's kind of a refreshing change. However, as you said, the tone does not completely work, where the first half kind of wants to be silly, then it's serious, and it's silly, then it's serious, and then it gets sleazy. I didn't
It's
like
not
it,
a good sign for me when I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, the most interesting thing with the film is the 44 Magnum automat that he has.
So we don't have much more to say about
I will say, great tagline. Go ahead, make my day.
No, it's not. It's so cheesy.
But it's a great
like,
tagline.
show me the money.
The last film came out in 1988. It proved to be the final Dirty Harry film, and it's not it's surprisingly, there's no surprise.
It's unsurprisingly
I'm sorry,
a piece of shit.
Say this again. Surprisingly, when this film came out, it said goodbye to Dirty Harry, and I can't say it was soon enough. This film sucks. In fact, what surprises me so much about this film, Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars, higher than the original, and said the best of the series. And I was thinking, what was he smoking?
Really?
This film, yeah, he gave it 3.5 stars.
Now, sometimes he reevaluates his reviews.
He said the best since the original, and for the original, he only gave 3 stars. So go figure. I don't understand that.
Because it's really a shitty film.
It is garbage.
It's really bad. This is the one
Everybody in it is bad.
You should be grateful to one thing about this
There's
film.
nothing redeeming in this film
There is one
at
thing.
all.
There is
what,
one thing.
Jim Carrey?
No. The one thing is you are a huge
Liam Neeson's ponytail?
You're a big fan of Frank Miller, correct?
Yes.
Well, Frank Miller said
I
that
like
he
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller's, well, I don't like his politics, but I like his comic book writing. But anyway, he said that
You
this
don't like
film.
comic books.
I did. I read The Dark Knight Returns. Anyway, Frank Miller was so disappointed by this film. He said that's how he came up with the idea to do Sin City. Sorry, I fucked that up.
Spin City. That is awesome.
No.
Marv in Spin City.
The Hardigan character.
Let me do it again. Frank Miller hated this movie so much, that's what gave him the idea to do Sin City. Fucking douche.
I'm sorry.
Why is that so funny?
I would have loved to see Frank Miller's Spin City with Michael J. Fox get sodomized over death. Come here, you little twitchy freak.
And then walks Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Kills Michael J. Fox.
You're killing me, please.
Yeah.
Please. I want to get through this without laughing.
He sodomizes Heather Locklear.
Good,
awesome.
Stop.
Frank Miller's
All right.
Spin City.
Anyway, let's get on target
there's
here.
And everything's in black and white.
There's nothing redeeming about this film at all.
Well, I think it's kind of funny.
It is absolutely, positively the worst Liam Neeson performance I've ever seen.
Not just that, it's an incredibly lazy film. Holy shit. I mean, forget about the fact that it's a terrible Dirty Harry film. I mean, just when it tries to get into the whole the whole thing about what it's like to make a movie, it seems to be confused as to whether the director's making a horror movie or a music video or both.
Weren't you just
laughing? Terrible.
Weren't you laughing out loud every time Liam Neeson was giving his English accent? Because that is the most bullshit English accent, and he's Irish.
I know.
That's the worst part.
And the whole thing.
I can do a better English
screaming
accent
because they have like Welcome to Jungle, like the actual
No, they have Guns N' Roses in the movie.
They must have blew their entire budget on that.
Remember when you?
That's why the rest of the film sucks.
Yeah, when you said it seemed like the whole film was built around Make My Day. To me, the whole film was built around Welcome to the Jungle.
Right, because they want to get those young kids to come to see the Dirty Harry movies.
They had Duff McKagan, they
Duff
had
McKagan.
Slash, and they had Izzy Stradlin sitting there, which is ironic because Axl Rose was nowhere to be
Well,
seen.
they got Jim Carrey to play Axl Rose.
Yeah, Jim Carrey as Axl Rose, and then the rest of Guns N' Roses except for the drummer Adler.
Yeah, probably out scoring some coke.
Now it should be explained. You know, I'm sure our audience figured this out by now, but this is before either Jim Carrey or Liam Neeson were stars.
Yes.
It is a surprise to see both of them today in this film. And go, wow.
This is even before In Living Color, I think, right?
Yeah, it was 88. Now, this is the shortest film in the series, and the problem is, this is the most cartoonish of all of them.
Why would something like a celebrity death list get publicized and become national, news throughout the city? That was so fucking stupid.
I never said it was a good idea. I thought the idea of itself.
Is this about the Deadpool? I don't know.
No, I think the idea of the list of celebrities being knocked off is a good idea, but everything else is very poorly done.
Well, look, it did again.
I'm a movie maker.
Two very good concepts, okay, that were not executed well at all.
Poorly executed.
One is the concept of the celebrity death wish. I think that is a good idea. Although it's interesting that this is 1988 before the internet really took off. Right?
Yeah, can you imagine with TMZ today?
But also, another intriguing concept that they sort of play with is that Harry Callahan is now a celebrity. He's got to be at this point. You know, considering all the people he put behind jail, bars, and the way he's done it, he's like a celebrity cop, and how that affects his job now.
But they're almost goofing around with it too when the mob is trying to make hits on him.
It's so light in tone that there is nothing interesting about it.
Yeah, like the romance with him and the
Patricia
reporter,
Clarkson.
which I like.
This gets me. Patricia Clarkson
is
a phenomenal actress, and she's a beautiful actress.
And she's a big dummy in this.
Yeah, it's just the big action scene in the movie is them
car.
trying to avoid the remote control car, which is one of the dumbest fucking things.
I can imagine.
See, I thought the ultimate scene was him with the spear gun. That's what I thought was the big.
That was stupid, but come on, this remote control car. It was like something out of a Peter Sellers Pink Panther movie.
That'd be a great scene in a comedy, but not in a Dirty Harry film. And it's ridiculous because how can they get away from a little remote control car?
But it's the only film where his partner doesn't die.
The person who directed this film was Buddy Van Horn, who was one of Clint Eastwood's cronies, a friend, and he does a very poor job with telling the story and the tone. He should have taken it a lot more seriously, and I think it would have helped a lot. The script still had a lot of problems, but I think it would have been a lot better if it was directed with a more serious tone.
No, I think it would have been a lot better if it wasn't made at all, and then they just said goodbye
Well,
to
if it had to be made, I wish, they should have killed Callahan's character off at the end.
No.
Or if they're going to do another Callahan film, they should get into about his age and how he can't be the same cop he used to be. And looking back, the problem is it fell to the same victim as something like the James Bond series does every now and then, where they have to top the last film, and it becomes progressively campier and sillier as it goes along. It becomes all about the one-liners. It becomes all about the elements that they think made the series popular in the first.
Well, that's a perfect example. Like we were talking about the catchphrase and stuff.
Right.
They design these catchphrases to put in trailers so that people talk about them. In fact, when I was a kid, the Deadpool had a line where the guy goes, "Hey, he forgot to open your fortune cookie," and he blows the guy away in the restaurant. It's stuff like that they want people to talk about, and they build a whole movie upon these catchphrases.
I remember a friend of mine called me when he saw the trailer for this film, and he goes, "Dude, you got to see the new Dirty Harry film. It's awesome. They're playing Welcome to the Jungle, and they show Clint Eastwood with the biggest gun I've ever seen." And then I watched it. That's not a gun. That's like a spear for like whaling or something. That's not. He's not walking around with like a giant cannon from like the Terminator film.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's wrap this up. I'm Edwin Samuelson. This was our Dirty Harry episode. I hope you enjoyed it.
I'm Michael Foltz.
That was Michael Foltz, and that was Eric Cohen. And until next time,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Make my day.
Make my day. The man's got to know his limitations.
You fuckers. Why'd you have to do that?
Do you feel lucky?
Okay, I like that smile.
Good smile.
Smile, baby.
Sleazy.